We're looking live at the White House right there as U.S. President Donald Trump pushes ahead with his campaign to get the U.S. economy running again. Trump announced federal guidelines yesterday for states to start easing up on shutdown measures and to get back to business. He says some parts of the country are ready to go right away, even as many states remain firmly in the grips of the outbreak. Let's go to our senior Washington editor, Lindsay Duncombe, who has more on Trump's plan. Lindsay, 3 phases. It takes some time to reflect on to understand what he's calling for, but let's go through the guidelines together, what he's now saying.
It takes some time because the tone and the details are not entirely the same. The tone from the president is victory over the virus, things are moving in the right direction. But when you look at the details of this plan, it really is a long slog plan that would be staggered across the United States depending on the severity of the virus. In order to even get to the first phase, states would need to prove that they've had a downward trend in coronavirus cases for 2 weeks, that they have adequate hospital capacity, and also robust testing. And that first phase, which would last 2 weeks, all these phases would be at least 2 weeks, doesn't look a whole lot different from what things look like right now. Here are the details. Schools would remain closed. Now that's key because schools being open is key to many people being able to re-enter the workforce. Restaurants and gyms could open, but not business as usual. There would have to be strict physical distancing, and elective surgeries could resume, which is important for a lot of patients waiting on treatment. If the virus continues on the downward trend moving into phase 2, that's when schools would reopen. And another key step, non-essential travel could resume. And then in phase 3, that is when it's believed vulnerable individuals can go into public and that workplace physical distancing could be relaxed. So those are the phases. The president acknowledged that even though there are some states that may be able to go ahead with this even now, where there are minimal cases, the hardest hit states will have to wait. Here's Donald Trump.
Look, I don't want anyone coming back that isn't in position to come back. The last thing we want is for, let's say, a New York to come back too soon or a New Jersey to come back too soon. We want them to come back when they're ready, but they're really heading in a good direction, and I think it'll be much faster than people think. I think it'll be quicker, but it's got to be safe.
Now, the president also acknowledged, Heather, that it is possible that the United States could see a resurgence in cases in the fall in particular.
So there's been this ongoing to and fro, Trump versus a number of the governors, Lindsay, as they've listened now to this plan. I mean, they heard him first say that he has total authority over the decision making. Now he's saying it's up to them. I mean, what's been the reaction so far in the states?
Well, I think there's relief that the president understands the division of powers in the Constitution and is willing to let these governors make the plans that they deem safe and appropriate. But the key criticism here is that whole idea that this can proceed with robust testing. Governors, as well as local leaders and business leaders, point out repeatedly that that testing infrastructure does not exist in the United States and that the federal government is not taking the lead on getting the stage to where it needs to be. Currently, it's estimated there are about 145,000 tests a day in the U.S. The low end of what the experts say would be needed in order to understand and minimize the spread of the virus would be 500,000 tests a day. And nowhere near that. Certainly steps are being made to go in that direction, but that is the thing that has many lawmakers and many businesses worried that these phases can even be entered at all.
Lindsay, interesting to hear what they think. And also, of course, you'll be watching how it relates to Canada because the Prime Minister here was very clear. Even if Donald Trump moves to ease travel restrictions, Canada is very much focused on keeping that border between Canada and the U.S. closed to all but essential travel. So Canada's in a different place on this issue for sure. We'll continue to watch that with you, Lindsay. Thank you so much. Our senior Washington editor is Lindsay Duncombe.